I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So our orders get all backed up. We're drowning in paperwork, then actually drowning. Carol is fighting off sharks with a stapler, and pirates are pillaging the office copier, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant goes beyond the resume, using unique insights to deliver a smarter shortlist. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Welcome to No Question About That. We're discussing Everton 2, Manchester United 2. I'm Ed with Daniel today. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right. Yes. Another masterclass from United this weekend. What a performance.
One of many occasions where we find ourselves saying, I cannot believe we've got that dickhead Bruno Fernandes. Why did we not just give Donny a chance?
Yeah. Should have binned him off years ago. Yeah, here's a 15-point tweet about it. Yeah, he's bailed us out, like, I don't know how many times now. It's something like 280 goals and assists he's got for United now. It's some ridiculous number. And it should be many, many more, because if we had a proper number 9 who'd actually be converting chances, he'd have even more of those assists. But yeah, Bruno bailed us out. That was our first shot on target, 72nd minute.
Even before that, him and Dorgu were the only ones that tried to do anything. Yeah. The only ones would look like they had the capacity to make something happen.
Yeah.
And he's Brian Robson. And if you think about Brian Robson in the 80s, for at least some of the 80s, he had Paul McGrath, Mark Hughes, Norman Whiteside. And then you look at the dickheads that Bruno's got, and his output is just ridiculous. And it's true that he's not brilliant in every game, but he's also a different kind of player. Like when you're a player whose job is to make goals happen, if you play in a crap team, it's going to be quite difficult to have that impact every week. But every single game, every single week, he runs his arse off. He tries to get the most out of the players around him, and we can see that the manager doesn't really want to play him in front of the defence. He wants to play him further forward, but he has to, because no one else can get the ball. He can't get the ball to himself otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. United is still bereft in central midfield. I mean, that was fairly obvious. I think Casemiro had a really bad first half. He improved for 20 minutes of the second, I think, like everyone. One of those games where you're like, oh God, he just doesn't have the legs anymore. So United cannot cover the space. And Ugarte, he's got some skills. He's not really an athlete. So you've got this lack of legs in front of the back three. And then you have 3 defenders, or at least 2 of them in De Ligt and Maguire, who cannot defend with space, right? They just cannot. It has to be compressed in order for them to be able to defend. We saw that at Arsenal, Liverpool, at City, and so on. And if there's any space in the game, they're going to struggle. And honestly, that wasn't even what caused Everton's 2 goals. The first one was just a long ball down the channel, basically completely opened us up. The second one, Harry had his concrete boots on, right? And like all of Manchester United fandom,
concrete head on.
Jesus, hundreds of millions of fans worldwide go, fucking jump. He just stood there.
It was absolute classic Harrens, that goal. In that, it was our old friend, the consecutive errors goal, but on this occasion, most of them were made by him, in that he gets caught defending a channel and he can't. Then he gets turned inside, and then he can't get off the ground to get the header away. And it wasn't even just that. He almost cost us a point at the end. Mm-hmm. And there were various other moments. What I'm hoping for actually is that this game actually teaches Amorim that we cannot go forwards with Franny, and we definitely can't go forward with Harrence Maguire, because all the things that we want to be, he isn't. And I know that we ride him quite hard here. And I think part of it is because this isn't his fault.
Steady on, Daniel.
Yeah. You watching. And one of the things is that it isn't his fault, but it is still him, is that to me, he's symbolic. That getting rid of Maguire is saying, yeah, I'm getting rid of people that aren't good enough, even if I think that they might have some use or you can keep them for another year on the cheap, which he's sort of doing. I mean, not on the cheap, but relative to getting someone better in. But we now end up with a situation where we've got this guy for another year, but he can't do most of the things that we need him to do. And especially when we're also stuck with De Ligt, who is not quite the same player, but he has enough of the same failings such that when you have both of them together, it affects how you're able to play. So I'm hoping that at least from here, Yoro will play almost all of the games, and that will give us just at least a little bit of pace on the cover. And it's not so much even the pace on the cover, although that is a big part of it. It's also just a sense of progress. Mm-hmm. And no one could possibly think that any team that's going to get good is going to have Harrens in it. It isn't.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be a very specific team. I mean, he was perfect in that Leicester team that won the title because that's how they played.
He wasn't
even in it, was he? It was Wes Morgan, yeah.
Morgan and who?
Yeah, he came after that, wasn't he? Yeah. It's, he if he had moved to West Ham, let's say, last summer, that would have been, it's not even about levels, because I think he can have a very high level. It's just very specific types of games. And in this one, where it is a bit opened up and United were expected to push ahead and had 60% possession, although, of course, some of that is game state and all of that. But it's just too easy to break him down. I mean, the first one talking about consecutive errors, like, there are 4 headers and 2 attempted clearances in that sequence from United. Just one of you smashed the fucking thing. I mean, I know we're getting all with Graham Taylor. Can you not knock it? But that's really it, Daniel.
Yes, I mean, the thing also with Harrens is that he's even got his back three now, where he's the middle guy in the back three. That's meant to be good for him, and he's still getting in the road. I mean, the first goal was dreadful, obviously, and with all of this stuff as well, we can't really talk too much about it before we start talking about the keeper.
Yeah, pushed another one.
I am sick. Another one? If only it was only one.
Yeah, that's true. He does have this habit of like pushing shots directly in front of him, and sometimes I think we can be a little unfair because he's quite athletic and he manages to get to stuff. As we saw earlier in the season, where his numbers were really high in terms of like post shot, expected goals against, and yada, yada, yada. And he can be quite good with those reflexes and stop stuff that other keepers might not have done. And then it looks bad because it drops straight in front of him. Some of them, he drops them straight in front of him. I mean, when United almost conceded the penalty right at the end, that was him pushing one directly into the attacker's path, right?
That was all his own work, that one. I mean, you can't justify that one. And we talked about exactly this not long ago. He did it against Forest. Seemed to recall he did it the other week, and then he did it again in the same game. Forget which one it was now. But this is what he is. It's 2 years now. We've seen none of the football that we were meant to see, and it means we're going to need a goalkeeper in the summer because this guy's wank.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get one, by the way, looking at the finances, unless we sell him for a decent amount of money. Yeah, it's with none of the football. The interesting thing is we've got this ball playing keeper just as a lot of teams are going just a little touch more direct, and because of like the coordinated high press that almost every team has, well, except for United, who do it man for man and in an uncoordinated fashion. And get more on from Darnish on that one. It's almost like we're a bit late on that one as well. Like football trends have moved on just as we've got the tiki-taka ball player who can't do any keeping.
I mean, keepers are still going to have to be able to play. And I think Ederson has got like 5 assists or something this season?
Yeah. It's a ridiculous amount.
I don't think that Onana was signed just for the short passing and passing out. He was signed to get us down the other end of the pitch with a long pass rather than a hoof. And we don't see anything from him.
I mean, I agree. He's although David De Gea got the yips, so it's an unfair if obvious comparison, and it was, I guess, time to move on from De Gea. He is a worse keeper, as in doing most of the basics. He's probably better at collecting high balls and all of that, although he has flapped at a few of those. But the thing he's supposed to be orders of magnitude better at, the footy stuff, we've barely ever seen. In fact, Everton thought they could press him yesterday, and they did start out trying to do that in order to try and cause some trouble. I guess the most worrying, I mean, the defensive stuff is just ridiculous, like comic book, schoolboy stuff.
Yeah,
could be comic book too. I don't know. Just it's a real joke how many goals United have conceded, especially under Amorim, which are like individual errors or consecutive errors that should just be able to cut out. There's nothing systemic in it at all. But the most worrying stuff, I think, is just a complete inability to fashion chances or take them when we do. And we have, in this particular game, Xerxes, who looks nice with the ball at his feet, but does almost nothing with it at all, like of any productive value.
I'm beginning to think that Xerxes is a bit of a shithouse, actually, in that the constant refusal to take responsibility. And we've seen it more than once. We saw it quite well at the end when he has an opportunity to shoot, time's running out, and rather than put his foot through it and risk missing, he puts it across to basically no one. And we've seen that a lot. The dummies. It's very rare you see him take responsibility where he's effectively saying, I'm going to deal with this. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's constantly, it just feels like buck passing. No, you miss. I'll try and give you a pass so you can do the decisive act. And it doesn't seem like he wants to score goals, really. And it doesn't
get in those positions.
And you're right, he does. But it's not even when he doesn't get in those positions. It's when he does, what happens. And he's always looking for another player, another pass, a feint, a dummy. And it's bullshit. It's when you're in the penalty area and it's in the last seconds of the game and you've got a sight. Yeah, unless it's a square pass for a tap in, and even then, but if it put your laces through it. And it's that as well that you very rarely see him apply power to anything. It's all the kind of stuff that if it goes wrong, you might not look that bad. And it's beginning to gnaw at my nipples. And I just want to... And sometimes you see stuff from him and it's quite nice. I mean, the other thing about him that I find frustrating is that he's got no pace, okay, but he plays like he does. Like he tries to do people for pace. And he tries to run away from defenders. And I'm thinking, no, don't, like you have to turn, like you have to be quicker in your head. Someone should sit him down with some videotape of Teddy Sheringham.
Yeah, that would be the archetypal player.
For me, that's sort of the archetype for him of someone with no pace, even less pace, who scored loads of goals, was a good finisher, scored goals, made goals, and knew how to play centre forward and get chances without having the kind of pace that will see you outstrip a defender or attack him behind.
Yeah. Well, Harry Kane doesn't have pace. I mean, I was just looking at his data here. He's under 2 shots per game.
So I think Kane sort of is one of those guys who's got sort of a bit like Eric, doesn't have pace, but sort of has just about enough pace. So that if he gets away, he should generally have enough physical power and control to be able to hold off challenges. So, and then today I watched Isak and this afternoon, and you can just see that he didn't play particularly well, but his ability to attack the channels and the football brain and the desire to run channels makes him a totally different proposition to Højlund. Obviously, he's a better footballer than Højlund, but he also, you can see he's thinking about the game differently. He just has a better grasp of where you might gain an advantage. That's part of it, but another part of it is just like I guess Højlund, I guess he is a willing runner. So I was about to say that Isak is just making sure that he runs all the time. But I think Højlund will do that as well. So what I actually mean is just what I said at the beginning is picking the right runs, and also obviously having players who play you in is helpful too. We're not suddenly saying that everything is Højlund's fault, but we're just watching him play the same game of football over and over again. It's shit every time.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like it has to be, and that's the frustration with him. It doesn't have to be this shit.
He feels like, Højlund that is, feels like he spends the entire game marking the defender, like just standing. And he got something like 7 touches in the first half, and you can go, okay, well, they're not passing to him. But he's also not in space to pass to him because it doesn't stick. If it's played directly into him and he's marked by a defender, it's not going to stick with him. He's not going to be able to control it, turn, fend off the defender and bring others into play. He has to run into the channels to get space. He has to move. I mean, you saw when Chido Obi came on for the last 20 minutes. I mean, he's obviously way too raw to be in the first team, and I'm not going to start suggesting we stick him into this team straight away and destroy the kid. But he suddenly started moving into the half spaces. Yeah. But he started moving into the half spaces, and suddenly you've actually got an attacker up there that defenders have to think about. This 17-year-old kid who's never played a minute of first-team football before. And it's like Rasmus Højlund, £70 million worth of player. He was supposed to be more than this, and sadly, he just isn't. He just isn't ready, or he doesn't have the tool or the ceiling at all. And then you've got Xerxes, as you say, contributes so little, like just so little of actual value. And it's like we've spent 10 years spending all this money on transfers. And every time we've been off the player, we're like, yeah, now we can improve. We actually get a worse format. Look, would we be worse than Anthony Martial in this team? I mean, no, like a fit Martial, not that he ever was, but it's just crazy. We just keep doing the same thing. We're like, yeah, this next one's going to be the man. And they just never are, apart from Bruno.
I mean, there's a funny week, and then I don't know if you noticed, but the second half, and Everton actually used to do this under Moyes that season. They finished 4th, and then a classic Everton season. That is it 4th they finish, and it's only top 3 in the Champions League, so they have to go into a playoff. They draw Villarreal, who are basically the best team in the playoffs, and they get clattered.
Yeah.
But that season, they'd come out for the second half, and Moyes decided it was a good idea that he'd say quite little, not say too much at half time. So when the opposition came out for the second half, Everton would already be there waiting. The idea saying that we're ready for this, lads. And I'm sure it didn't make that much difference, but beginning of this second half, United are out very, very quickly. But I just imagine that's Amorim saying, get out of my fucking sight before I do something that I can't take back. And they were out a long, long time before Everton, because presumably he just told them, like, how long can you... He called them cunts, and that was all he had to say. That there wasn't that much else to say. But Bruno said afterwards that it wasn't tactical. Like, they had to stick to the plan. This was what Amorim said. Bruno said they had to do what he said, but what Amorim said was no. They just had to do it well.
Yeah.
There's a moment after about 35 minutes where United get a corner, and Bruno takes it to Dallo. This is like straight out of the Fred playbook. And he can't control the ball.
Yeah.
And obviously he can control the ball. It's just a total lack of focus, discipline, concentration. And it was Fred. Bloody hell, I never thought I'd say this, but do I wish we
missing him
now?
yeah.
Sort of am. That at least some energy, even though I thought he was crap, at least a bit of energy and some desire to do something. But the most careless footballer I've ever seen.
I couldn't believe that afterwards from Amorim when he was like, he didn't make any changes, and I guess that was a surprise because, I mean, it's a very, very, very long list now, but it was one of the worst 45 minutes of football we've seen in the last decade. But
last week.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like every week now. But that quote from him where he says, we just had to stick to the plan. We just had to play like we train during the week. But are we training to be limp and insipid and impotent and like, because that's what we get every week? Like, do they really not listen to a brand new coach? Are we saying these footballers who've sacrificed everything to becoming the elite of the elite suddenly just don't care. I cannot compute. There are 22 games now of Amorim. It's 4 months or whatever. And so little of what I think he's trying to get them to do that we saw from the sporting team is translating onto the pitch. And there's just so much apathy that I'm here going, hey, maybe the guys who are like, they don't care and there's no passion, maybe they're right after all, like this reductive analysis. But you can't watch that first 45 and go, oh, yeah, I see what he wants to do with them. Right? There's such a massive disconnect.
I don't know, because I think we do know what he wants to do. It's just they don't have the quality or the mentality to do it. And there's, I guess, a difference between sacrificing your youth and in order to be a footballer, so not going out early nights, keeping fit, versus what it actually takes to play at the top level of the game, contesting the big pots. That requires the cruelty almost to turn up and give it everything every time. And that's not something that everyone can do. And even players who are really good, players who are better than the dickheads that we got. And so it's not necessarily that they're not putting it in. It's just they're not able to put in the maximum effort. The maximum effort that they can put in is not the maximum effort they're capable of putting in. So on a given day, you might only have available 70% because you're feeling a bit tired, the mood's not great, all of those things. And what separates the elite is they'll always find a way. They'll be able to override whatever is going on in their heads, in their lives, in the dressing room, in the club, and just get out there and perform. And Bruno can do that because he is that elite level, but the rest of them more or less can't. And so it's not about exactly that they're not trying. It's that they don't mentally have the relentlessness and remorselessness to be able to give everything every time. Because Everton won't play like that every week either. And they were quite good in the first half, but they were able to find the level of intensity that United couldn't. And all we had was that we had Dorgu because we haven't infected him yet. It was funny, after the game, I was chatting to a friend. And I said something about Dorgu being quite good. And then literally one after the other, I go, we'll soon sort that. And my mate goes, yeah, not for long. Literally, it's just because that is what we expect now. I mean, people used to talk about City-itis. We've got that now where
United-itis, yeah.
And Bruno's immunity to it is fucking phenomenal, really.
Mm-hmm. Through 5 years of him, like, consistently performing at elite levels while there's just absolute shit around him. It's
and imagine how much he must hate them. And also not the fact that the other players seem to like him. That he hasn't really created a situation where he's walking about, not talking to any of them, thinking, you're all cunts, I can't bear you. I don't want you to come near me because I just feel angry.
Yeah.
And
well, he'll be angry when he retires because he'll have given his best years to this stupid club.
And then you give him a player like Dorgu, and you think, gosh, what a difference! A player with some physicality, with some enterprise, who wants to take the ball, who wants to carry the ball, who makes the right run over and over again. So there's a level of repeatability. Is that a word? Repeatableness, whatever it is. And you think, okay. Because this is something you would look for in a good team. Where are the partnerships?
Mm-hmm.
And that's starting to look like, okay, there could be a partnership there. We need to see more from Dorgu because in the end, he didn't really create a chance or get into a position to have a shot himself. But it was promising. And you could see, and it was one of the first times where you're like, okay, I feel like I know what the manager wants this to look like. He wants it to look like that. The way those two are combining down the left, that's what it's meant to look like because we now have two intelligent players next to each other.
Yeah, 5 or 6 physical players. And he's got more than that, Dorgu, clearly, obviously. I mean, he's a bit loose with the final ball and a bit loose with the passing sometimes. Hopefully that develops over time. if we don't ruin him first. But yeah, he's physical. He moves. He was constantly looking for space. And it's, I wouldn't say it's transformative, but it's a big difference, isn't it? To have an actual player there who is an outlet all of the time and making those combinations with Bruno, who came out to the left quite a lot. All right, we did actually get back into this game. I mean, we got the Bruno twice taken free kick. One was like a most obvious handball ever, and then move it 10 yards forward, rugby style, and then just passed it into the corner while Jordan Pickford was trying to cheat. I love it when goalkeepers do that. He's trying to... Oh dear, yeah, like take 3 steps over to the right, anticipating Bruno flicking one over the wall, and no, just rolls it in the other side. Very nice.
It was
nice
a bit, yeah,
on target.
Schmeichel, Barcelona away November 98, and then in the final, he does it again.
Yeah.
In the same goal, he gambles again and gets found out again. But yeah, I mean, Pickford looks like always like someone's just tangoed him. He's just got one of those faces, sort of like nappy rash faces.
I did enjoy when Højlund left one in on him and has grazed his knee or whatever. And Pickford spent about the next 5 minutes moaning at the ref about it. And the ref clearly just told him to fuck off and get on with it. And I quite enjoyed that. Like, just none of it.
It doesn't feel like a goalkeeper's name, Jordan.
It doesn't feel like a footballer's name.
I mean, there are a lot of Jordans in football now.
Some spawny kid with a funny gait is what you get with a Jordan. Yeah, I mean, Pickford spent his entire career at Everton. I feel like that's his level, really.
No, he was at Sunderland. He's from Sunderland.
Yeah, Sunderland for a couple of years, yeah. All right, so we had the Bruno goal, and then...
I mean, it was a brilliant goal, obviously, as well.
Brilliant goal, yeah. You had the 2 substitutions, who made a big difference. Garnacho actually running at players, and Obi Martin. And suddenly there was some life came into it, and United actually woke up, 20 minutes left. And then we had the finish from Ugarte, who I didn't know he had that in him, really. His left foot spanked it into the corner. It was quite nice from him.
It was a really good goal. I don't think he's very good still. I'd love to be proved wrong, but he just doesn't do enough. And really, he did almost nothing. And in those games, the way we see the way the first half went, that is a kind of game where you're relying on the person that plays in that position to kind of limit the damage. But he should be putting out fires all over the place, and he wasn't really doing anything. And I don't get it with him. I'm not saying he's useless, but 60 million quid for that? Nah, man. I cannot understand it.
Yeah, there was that piece that came out after he joined that Paris Saint-Germain were briefing that they didn't want to let him go, really, just didn't fit Enrique's system, not a ball player, and that he would instantly become one of United's best players. And I was like, are they blowing smoke up our ass here? Because it kind of feels like there's one dimension to him, and he does that bit well. The challenging, tackling, intercepting piece. He doesn't cover, he's not really that physical. And given the way modern football has moved, you do need quite a lot of physicality.
Especially when you've got a 2 in midfield.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to cover a lot of space. Yeah.
It needs to be monstrous. And it's not, I don't even think that it's just covering the space, although that is obviously vital. You need to be big as well. So if we had 2 scurriers who were cardio machines, but they were little, like Bruno dimensions, say, I still don't think that would be sufficient. Then you also need to be big. Yeah.
We'll see in time with him, but yeah, I suspect he would not be in a United title winning side. If he is the player that was bought to be the extra man in a tough away game where you need someone who's willing to kick a few people and cause a ruckus and all of that, as we've seen, his best performances were in those games, right? Those 3 away games, Arsenal, City, Liverpool. Then you'd get it as one of the 2 in midfield next to Casemiro. United not going to compete with any team in the league, basically, with that 2 in a 2 in midfield, because you're either going to get outnumbered or out physicaled or both. And that happened against Everton. So It is a challenge, certainly. I mean, we just can't fix all of these problems in the summer because it's going to be 2 years of being quite tight on the budget. I think unless there's a miracle and we actually win the Europa League, that would accelerate this by a year for sure. It doesn't seem very likely from this point here on in, does it?
It
But
does not.
hey, we've been actually half decent in Europe under Amorim. I mean, it's only 4 games, but they're 4 wins.
I mean, we're playing Sociedad halfway in La Liga.
Yeah,
Like we could beat them, and they're unlikely to kind of defend deep against us. So then we might beat Sociedad, but it feels like at some point you'll play like Bilbao or Lyon, and they'll be too technical, and they'll beat us.
yeah. Lyon are much good, but Roma have had a bit of a bounce back. That looks like that could be the semi-final. I mean, it's quite a good half of the draw, really. I mean, Lyon in pretty desperate trouble. They have got Rayan Cherki, who everyone in Europe wants at the moment. And John Textor, the owner there, is quite funny. So I don't know whether you saw it, he had a rant about Paris Saint-Germain. He said the thing that no one actually says in football, which is like, how can we compete? These guys are cheating every year. It's just not fair. And he said the TV contract will never increase because we know the result of the game before it started. I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, it's a pretty favourable draw, honestly. I mean, we've got a pretty average Roma side. We've got a Real Sociedad side who are nowhere near as good as they were last year. We've got FCSB, who we've already beaten this season, and Lyon, who the French league want to relegate down to Division 2, which is, very good. So, I mean, it's open, but I cannot believe United will actually play well over 180 minutes to win this competition just yet.
Without
Ahmad,
also without Ahmad and Martinez.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal outlook, honestly. All right, we're going to get onto the penalty before we talk about Ipswich. The penalty, non-penalty. Funny, I was because Hairy Hands Richard Keys was doing his usual sort of thing, and Michael Owen had a freak out saying they didn't show the ref the Delict pull. I had a look. It has to be sustained and impactful. Those are the words in the Premier League guidance. Sustained and impactful. And neither of which shirt pulls, if you can even call Harry Maguire's that, were. So, I mean, it seems the right decision, just like obviously, to overturn it. It's a surprise because you rarely see those overturned.
I was very surprised they overturned that. I mean, it was total stupidity from both those defenders, I guess.
Well, 3 of them. Anana pushed it straight back into Young's path.
I mean, that's less stupidity, more pathology.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maguire, it's just, I guess, a combination of them letting go just in time. So maybe, in fact, it was skill. Also, Young's desperation to concede a penalty, also, the way he hurls himself to the ground probably didn't help.
No. I mean, obviously he's got form there. But it's like basic physics. If someone pulls you backwards, you don't go forwards in a Superman move. It was so ridiculous that, of course, the ref goes, hang on a minute. Yeah, he's fully horizontal at one point, Young is. Like, I just don't know how that happens. Newton would have had something to say about that. But yes, it was just not enough of a sustained pull for the...
and it definitely wasn't impactful either. He made it impactful by diving, I would say.
Yeah. Amazing he's still going, age 40. He deserves this for being a twat, but didn't get to play with his son in the FA Cup the other week, which I guess was sad because they didn't bring him on.
Yeah, he's one of those players I cannot believe played for United. I could not believe it when we signed him, where he's just someone you feel like for sure is not good enough or really that close to good enough.
We used to have this bit, me and Paul had this bit where we were like calculating how much did it cost United in transfer fee and wages with Ashley Young for him to not score or assist anything that week. And it feels very quaint now because, like
they do have the whole team.
Yeah. Well, and also it's like you've got players like we've spent money on players like Anthony 5 times as expensive to produce even less. But yeah, he's amazing. He's still going, age 40. In the Premier League, popping up in the box in the 93rd minute to dive and win his team a penalty, not penalty. So there's something impressive about that, I guess. All right, that's Everton. We've got Ipswich in midweek, Daniel. Kieran McKenna, Ipswich, you can't beat anyone who did beat Spurs the other week, but look pretty certain to go down, I'd say.
I mean, the
Kieran
bottom
McKenna
three
signed this massive, they're basically gone, aren't they?
The bottom three are gone. And I mean, it's worth noting, actually, that the bottom three, last season it was the promoted clubs that went down as well. And I think there was 5 points behind Luton, who finished third bottom, and Forest, who finished fourth bottom. So it wasn't close. And they're well adrift this time as well. And if you look, the teams that are going to come up, automatic promotion is going to be 2 of Leeds, Burnley, and Sheffield United. Sheffield United and Burnley went down last year. These went down the season
payments,
before. And do you know who these went down with the season before? Fucking Leicester and Southampton.
Yeah.
This is not healthy. That it's almost impossible. It feels like it's very, very difficult to stay up, because if you think about next season, right? If you look at the teams who are just above the relegation zone, Wolves, West Ham, United and Everton, it's not difficult to make a case that all 4 will be much better. And then, so you've even got Leeds. Leeds have good players, but even Leeds finding a way to stay up is going to be difficult if they happen to come up. And yeah, it's hard to stay in the Premier League, but increasingly it's also hard to get out of the Championship if you're not one of those teams. I know Ipswich are there, but the other 2, Southampton and Leicester, as I said, then even if you go down into the playoffs, like below them, you've got Sunderland, West Ham, Blackburn, I think Coventry are maybe the next 4. And you kind of look at it and think, so it'd be Coventry the team that if I had to pick that I'd want to come up. And then I remembered who their manager was. And I thought, revise that.
Yeah, there are examples, right? Because Forest just managed to escape relegation a couple of years ago, 18 months ago. Yeah, haven't spent a monstrous amount of money, and basically broke FFP to stay up. So that's what you have to do. I mean, you can gamble, as Ipswich did. Ipswich were one of the 2 biggest net spenders, and so they've gambled all their Premier League money on a few players, right? But it's not enough to bridge the gap between a Championship level squad and the fourth worst team in the Premier League. They'd have had to gamble even more, and then you have a problem with your finances if and when you go down, right? So they
well, I guess what's going to happen with them is, I guess what happens with them is they sell the Interlap.
Yeah, well, they will. Yeah,
that sort of redresses quite a chunk of the balance, maybe even to us.
Well, except City have a buyback clause in that, because they could buy him back and then flip him. So
that feels unlikely.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to buy him to keep him, because they just spent a absolutely insane amount of money on Marmoush.
Haaland.
And they've got Haaland. And
he's got a new contract.
Yeah. 10 years of it. Top stuff. Yeah. So, Ipswich, feel certain. It's a 5-point gap to Wolves right now. Can they bridge that? They've only won 3 times all season. They've only scored 24 goals, which is, mind you, only 6 worse than us.
Haha.
Top stuff. Yeah. But it's at Old Trafford where we had the biggest problems. We're absolutely abject at Old Trafford, and especially against teams who are quite willing to defend in numbers and then break. That's what I imagine Ipswich will do.
We have to hope, I guess, that Dorgu makes a difference there. I also intrigued. I think you have to assume that Garnacho will keep his place, just because at least he's someone. He's dynamic. He tries to make things happen, and I wonder if he might give Obi a go as well, because it feels at this point it's just pointless playing Højlund doesn't do anything, and you play him again for what?
I feel really mixed about this, because I like the best examples of players who have done well for United. Young kids come out of the academy, and I know he's a transplant, but either they just take their chance by sheer will and luck or whatever it is. And Marcus Rashford's most recent example comes into the team because of an injury crisis and stays in it basically for the next 7-8 years. But it's not often you get kids break into a really crap team. So you do kind of worry about that. And he is raw. I mean, you can even see in the under-18s, his kind of all-round game, there's a lot of rough edges to it. He's a brilliant finisher and just seems to, by instinct or good coaching, whatever it is, I mean, a lot of good players coming out of the Arsenal Academy these days who we seem quite willing to steal. He just seems to be in the right place all of the time. That will serve him well, obviously, in the Premier League, like just the movement. And you did see in that 20 minutes, he is willing to move in between the lines and make space to receive the passes.
He got on the ball.
His quite a few times. Yeah.
The passing and touch was not ideal, I wouldn't have said, but we could see him getting much more involved than Højlund does.
Yeah. Absolutely. You just worry that it's too soon. And given the pressures that are exerted at this club, he'd have a couple of games. It wouldn't be brilliant. And all of a sudden, he's bin him off.
And that is,
will be the call. Yeah.
Play the kids it is generally a mark of idiocy. It gets to a point where you sort of don't have a choice. And we saw it, like I think I probably said this before, we saw it with Arsenal. Arteta tried to hold off playing Smith Rowe and Saka from the start in big league games, and he almost got himself fired. Now, the game against Chelsea, I think it was around Christmas time, and he doesn't have options. He knows that he's going to get beaten and maybe fired if he doesn't. So he plays them both, and Arsenal win the game. And although it doesn't work out for Smith Rowe, that changes Arteta's time in charge, is that decision. And obviously he had Saka, who you could see from the Europa games was ready. And I feel like we're not seeing that from Obi. I don't feel like I've seen that. And the little I've seen of him, it's not like Mason Greenwood, where I felt like, they sat on Mason Greenwood for a bit longer than he needed to, where you watch him and the little football he had, and you'd be saying, this guy's ready. And it felt like Ole was trying to do the right thing and like bring him on slowly, when actually sometimes the right thing is just putting them in because they're there. And I felt like Mason Greenwood was there. I'm not getting those same vibes from what I see of Obi, but at the same time, the alternative is so dreadful that it might be at a point where you give him a game like Ipswich at home feels like a good place to start.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say this because I feel like I'm getting thicker, even thicker, as like with every syllable I utter here. But I think I would probably play Obi against Ipswich just to see what happens, because the other part of me is obviously going, well, maybe Højlund will get himself a goal in that one, and then it will snowball.
There's not been a lot of evidence of that.
No, I'm close to saying this guy is not going to play for United. And I feel bad saying it because we've seen quality from him. We've seen some really good goals, and we saw them in succession when he had that purple patch before he got injured at Luton.
Yeah.
But right now, you can't justify putting him in the team. And and you can't really play Xerxes up front, because if you did, and you played Garnacho, you play Garnacho in one of the spots behind him. You can't really play Bruno in the other one because he needs to be next to Ugarte in the pivot. So who else have you really got to even go in that role? So I guess I would be playing. I'd play Obi and see what happens, because at least if you've got someone who makes the right runs, and particularly against the team that aren't good, then maybe something will happen. And when Marcus Rashford broke through, given that we gave the advantage, it was obviously lucky because he wasn't meant to be in the team. Martial gets injured in the warm-up. I mean, also feels predictable. But then Martial gets injured in the warm-up, and then the ball falls to him twice in the box. He can't miss on either occasion. And it more or less happens again against Arsenal. In that, I remember at the time thinking, obviously we've got to keep him in the team, but what you're looking for as a supporter when you're in dire straits, as we were and always are, you're like, give me something to believe in. And when I saw it from Rashford in those first two games, it wasn't exactly something I could believe in, because the chances, all four of them were not difficult finishes. But it then gives him the opportunity to score the goals we see against West Ham and City that season, that are brilliant goals. So, I don't like saying it, but I'll give Obi a go in midweek, because If it was City away, I wouldn't.
The pathway is not predictable. Rashford, it was not obvious when he was 16, 17, 18 that he was definitely going to make it into the team. He's now played over 400 games for the club, 150 goals. That's from where he was when he was a teenager, it's an incredible output. And we saw this weekend, his ceiling is very high. He's, he may be coming good at Aston Villa. We'll see on that one. We could certainly do with him being sold if that is a decision and the barrier has broken. I mean, he's, whatever you say about Marcus Rashford and his perceived effort levels and his lifestyle, he is not worse than Rasmus Højlund and Josh Zirkzee. I know that for sure. If that's broken down, and he's going to be sold, then we want a bigger fee as possible for him, obviously.
Oh, we want to see him do well. Same with Anthony.
Yeah.
Same with Anthony. It could make us look stupid if he goes to Betis and does well, but no, it means that that's his level, and it's good for us because we need to get him sold for as much money as we can possibly get for him. And I want Rashford to do well because it feels like a more personal connection there, just everything that he has done for United, and it's a lot of things. And feeding children I wish that guy all the luck in the world. I want to see him do well. Yeah. And I don't think it reflects badly on Amorim. I just think he needs to move.
Yeah. So Anthony's going to be hard to break even on just because of the monstrous fee, right? So if we manage to get 30 million for him, we can just about break even. It seems unlikely. Rashford would obviously, because he's as valued at zero on the books, there's some profit there, and the wages off the book obviously gives United a fair bit of headroom. And then the other one we want to watch, who you mentioned, is Mason Greenwood, who's having a fantastic season at Marseille, scoring, creating all-round performances under De Zerbi. United have a 50% sell-on clause of anything that Marseille sell him for, and he'd obviously go for a fair amount more than they bought him for, right? So if he left, Marseille are obviously trying to build something there. So, given that United still have this, massive overhead of the last 5 years of spending, which has been a complete and utter total disaster, couldn't have been worse, basically. We will be in a difficult position. We're in a difficult cash position, bar for Sir Jim putting money in. And we're in a difficult PSR position because of the spending, that the amortization rate's really high. So how much money have United got?
Can Big Uncle Sir Jim, is he allowed to put in?
He can put as much money as he wants in. There's no limit. It'll only 90 million over a 3-year rolling period will count towards PSR, right? So that's owner funding, but he could put as much as he wants in. It's just only a certain amount of it will count towards PSR. I mean, it turned out that last 80 million he put in was the difference between United being cash negative and cash positive, unbelievably. So that would have been more debt this year just to pay wages, just to keep going, right? More debt. That's not even getting anything for that debt. So that was needed. It was supposed to be for capital projects. It turns out it's just working cash. There's obviously some money being spent at Carrington at the same time. So, yeah. We saw the Glazer, Avram this week, saying no when asked directly by a Sky reporter about whether they're going to sell. I don't think he can sell anything different. I personally, having done a fair amount of this reg training, would not want to test the limits of the Williams Act on whether I'm doing market manipulation or not by stoking up the price when you're not actually in a period when you can sell. So let's not put hope in that just yet. But yeah, United are in a tight position. Anyone they can sell, they can sell. And the reason I got onto this was thinking about Højlund, because you said, hey, we'd probably like to get rid of him. I'm sure the club would like to get rid of him. Unfortunately, 72 million over 5 years, divide that by 5, times it by 3. That's what's left on his contract. And that's what United have to sell him for, £45 million or something like that. Just under £45 million. I'm not sure you could find a club that would spend that much money on him. So in that case, you take a loss, which you probably will do on Anthony as well. And if they want to get rid of Casemiro, they're going to need a £15 million fee and someone to take those wages on. So there's probably going to be a loss there. It's just a really difficult balancing act to try and fix this club.
It is a sell Garnacho situation, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's why they were actively marketing him. That's why they were like, yeah, we can. They could have sold him and got another 1 or 2 Dorgus in, basically. Yeah. There are no other marketable assets.
I mean, there's him and Mainu, and I guess Manu is one of those where I am worried about him. I don't see how, and because I keep reading that we've got all these players that can't fit in the 3-4-3. And mainly I think that's bollocks. I think the problem is one of quality, not one of where they start the match standing. I just think the players aren't good enough. And I see players that do fit in the 3-4-3, like Dallo and Maguire, and they're still shit. Whereas Garnacho is the one who's not a natural fit, but I think if he was going to be good enough, and I'm not convinced he is, him and Ahmad, I keep saying this, I think they're really good, but I think that also sort of sub in a first choice team that wins stuff, yes. First choice in a team that wins stuff, don't know at best. I think that Garnacho, if he's going to be good enough to play in the kind of team that we want to become, he'll find a way of making it work. If he isn't, he's a good sub. Don't want to sell him.
The challenge with that line of thinking, though, is like we're nowhere near winning anything, right? And we're several years off it. So if you've been every player that's not good enough to be in a championship winning side, you're left with Bruno, and that is it.
No, I know, and it's not about. It's just the reason why I worry for Manu is because he just I don't see where he fits. I don't want to sell him. I don't want to sell Garnacho. I want to keep both of them.
Sure.
I just think for us to acquire some players that might be good enough this summer, I guess if we could get rid of Rashford to something significant, then maybe that would be enough. But it feels like at least one of those two is going to go. Is going to have to go. And I watched it. You see it. You see it. Newcastle and Forest today. Elliot Anderson's playing for Forest. Newcastle didn't want to sell him. They had to because in order to get for PSR to get what they needed. I don't think that was even to sell players. That was just stay within the rules.
It was, and they managed to buy a number 2 who's played precisely one game, number 2 goalkeeper, reserve goalkeeper, who's played one game for £20 million, who never played any games. But there were so many shenanigans going on last summer. But yes, they had to sell Elliot Anderson, and I assume they probably would rather have not done that. Yeah, so United might be in that position too. Yeah,
I don't want to sell Kobbie Mainoo at all, and I don't want to sell him because what happens when we fire the manager in a year? He's brilliant playing as a number 8 for a team that plays 4-3-3.
Absolutely.
I don't want to sell him. But if Amorim is a success, let's say that this is quite a significant thought experiment now. But if somehow we become good, where is Mainoo playing there? And the answer still feels like on the bench. Because if Bruno is playing in the midfield, then you're definitely not having Mainoo next to him. And so, I really want there to be a solution for how Mainoo works as one of the two. I'm not, based on how I've seen this formation working, which is not really, but also imagining how it might work, it feels like it needs two immense athletes in that position, and we don't know any.
I completely get what you're saying. I mean, there are two questions there. Like one, we're kind of in a Schrodinger's manager state, aren't we? Where Amorim is brilliant, we think, but also absolute shit at the same time because of the results on the pitch, right? And we're hoping when we open the box, he's still alive and he's still a good manager and we haven't ruined him. So that's one. And is there not a question mark about adaptation, right? So, and I know we go round and round in circles in this because Erik ten Hag, it took him precisely 2 games to abandon all his principles and adapt to something that was even worse. So that's not exactly my line of argument here, but are we saying that we have to buy a Patrick Dorgu, so the archetype right player for each position, in order to get good under Amorim? Is there no way he will adapt any of these roles in any fashion to fit the players we've got in order to make it work?
Well, right? He was quite clear about this, wasn't he? That he said that there's no one that doesn't fit in the system. The system is flexible and can adapt to the players. So,
because he talks about principles quite a lot. That's what he talks about more than. I mean, he's actually chided journalists who've said, "Hey, what about the 3-4-3?" But
3-4-3, that's not a tactic. The tactic is what you do in the 3-4-3. The strategy is how it works from there. He's right.
And off the ball yesterday, out of possession, United were basically a 4-4-2, right? So it does adapt. But I guess the bigger question mark then is less about the 3-4-3 than you've got certain players and in Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho and Kobbie Mainoo, who ought to be, given United's current state, like three of the better players, the three of the players you build around to move forward. And for different reasons, either performance, personal, technical, physical, or systemic, that none of them are guaranteed a place in the team at all, right? And like that just makes your job of building that much harder, because you then have to replace supposedly some of your better players as well as all the crap ones.
Well, in theory, they're the ones that you get good money for. And it's just...
Show me the history of where United have got good money for a player and then spent it well. Like, it just isn't. It just no. Give me an example. There aren't any. I know we've got completely different personnel in charge of this stuff now. It's Wilcox and Vivell who are leading the charge on identification of players to fit the system technically and financially and all of that kind of stuff. And maybe we have the turnaround. Maybe. I don't know. Can't say that definitely from last summer, right? No, we can't. I mean, sadly, we can't, because Ugarte feels one-dimensional. De Ligt, not really an upgrade on anything. Maybe on Lindelof. Wouldn't have taken much. Certainly not 50-odd million pounds. Yoro, we'll see. We'll see. Mazraoui, lovely footballer, but definitely not a wing-back in a 3-4-3. So it's just really challenging. We've got a decade of total failure of replacing players with better players. And so I don't even trust that we sell Garnacho for 60 million and go, whoa, we can have a party now this summer and spend a load of money, and then we buy a bunch of duffers. Awesome. Very good. I guess that's it. Daniel.
Until the next time.
Until the next time, we want to have a moan about this. Supporters, backers on Patreon, you'll find NQAT Extra. We do some kind of show each week talking about something else. And the Tactics show, that will be on Monday, I think, this week with Darnish and Daniel. And you can find my Substack at nqatpod.substack. I didn't write one last week because I was away at a water park with the kids, but I'll do something this week. Not for a whole week, 3 days, which was quite a lot.
Hang on, you were at a water park for 3 days?
Yeah.
So is it that big that you do different shit on every day, or
it was pretty big, but it was basically the same stuff. How many times can you go in the wave machine or down some slide or
fucking
whatever?
hell? That feels like some kind of torture situation.
It was quite a long time. Yeah. Luckily, there were several pot shops nearby.
Oh, I can't even think about how many edibles I would be consuming in that kind of situation.
Yes, Daniel. Yeah. The worst part of being at a water park in America, of course, is blokes with very large moobs. Just disturbing.
I don't want the car story. Who wants a car story?
No one, Daniel, but give us the car story.
So I still haven't paid the damages on this car. And they go to me, if you get an invoice from the place that did your work, we'll take that in mind. So I go through the trouble of obviously getting that. And bear in mind, the conversations that me and this place have had, asking them to do shit for me I was nice about it when there was no like massive fallout, but can you do this for me? It's obviously not exactly what I want to be saying to these lads. So I eventually do it and they say, sorry, we can't take it into consideration because the company aren't VAT registered. And so, yeah, we can't, if they're not VAT registered, then we can't do it. But also, the invoice needs to be more specific than it is. It's not on headed paper. It's just an Excel thing they've sent you. I said, okay. I didn't say okay. I said, I'm not happy, blah, blah, blah. And then they said, okay, so if you can go and get the invoice on the headed paper. I was like, but what's the point? If you told me they're not VAT registered, then yeah, but just go and do it and then we'll discuss it. So I find a template on Word. I do them an invoice and say, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to send it to you. You send it back to me saying, here's the invoice as requested. I send the invoice on and then I get an email back saying, sorry, but these guys aren't VAT registered. So,
dear me.
So I went back to them. In the meantime, I was going to pick my daughter up from school the other day. 4 weeks ago, and this kid runs into me. I'm stationary. So I get out of the car, say, what gives. And he says, you know, he just passed his test. I say, well, I'm really sorry, but this obviously needs to be sorted. And I will. He's like, I don't want to do it on the insurance. I was like, okay, well, my guess is that it's going to cost around £1,000, probably, bearing in mind what I know about what this stuff costs. And I do know a few things about bodywork now. So I message him and I say, well, I'm going to get a few quotations. I'll bring them to you. And I'm going to try and keep it as cheap for you as I can because I know that this is a bitch. So and he says, fine. I said, I get 2 quotations. I say, I reckon this cheaper one here is not possible to get it for less than that. Like the person in the garage knows my brother-in-law. End of correspondence. He's just totally ghosted me. And it's just, I'm like, mate, I've got your number plate. I've got your phone number. Yeah. And I've got a message where I say, I'm the guy that you hit. I haven't have his details. I'm the guy that you hit. This is what I'm going to do. And he says, all right, then. He replies, I don't know. It's one of those things, isn't it? Where now I go to, let's say I call the insurer, I find out as insurance. And then it's like, well, it feels a bit like grassing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Except
you're
you
going to have to do it.
Except you hit my car, I do the G's with the damage. And here we are.
Awesome. This is what happened to United after we bought Rasmus Højlund. We phoned up a week later and said, hang on, this one's damaged. It doesn't work. And they were like, too late. Sold. We've got your invoice.
I think I heard that Rashford saw him and was like, they traded him and was like, what the fuck is this? I don't know if that's true. Feels like it could be.
Good story, though. Good story. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, listeners, viewers, wherever you are. We'll catch you next time.
See you, Tara.